29.999. 29.4.
All right, let's take a look at that. So this is gonna be second lap, hot lap. The tires are way too cold to make turn 1 and 2 work in lap 1. So what we want to do in 3 and 4, I did some experimenting. I really thought that like being along the wall would be worth something, but it turns out that you just gotta run a normal line kind of in the middle and then just run it a little slow on entry and get to gas as early as possible. You'll kind of see it reflected here in the delta, how I lose a lot of time, but I'm able to pick up the gas pretty early, and I turn the car actually a bit down to the bottom to do that little, make it just a little bit straighter so I can get that extra speed. And it's able to squeeze out a little more time, or at least a little more momentum on exit. So that's kind of, you don't need to overcomplicate it, go right by the wall or anything. I'm sure going right by the wall is a tiny bit faster, but because they're so close to each other, I think just running the middle here and then cutting down a little bit on exit and then coming back up to the wall, that's going to be just about as good as anything else you could do. Okay, so a good amount of speed on exit. We're going to go towards turn 1. So the thing about turn 1 is that this is why I am down to 14 to 1, is that I could not get this little flick here on 16 to 1 consistently. So even before the turn starts, you can see that I'm still kind of on the straightaway. Right before the straightaway turns to the turn, I want to just point my car at full throttle down to the white line and just force my car there by any means necessary. So I turn my car down there. The goal is to get your lefts like right on it. If you nick the apron, it's not the end of the world, but it's not ideal. So you just got to get your lefts right there. And then you see here, I'm holding about 80% throttle all the way through this. So I full throttle up until I actually need my car to start turning down to the white line, down to 80% throttle. And I hold that 80% throttle all the way up the track until I get about 1 lane from the top. And then I go full throttle, because what this will do is that full throttle will rotate the car loose, and it'll make my car once again parallel with the wall. And the timing for that is just about when you're about 1 lane from the wall, you go from 80% to full throttle, and the car will get loose and start to rotate. So keep that in mind. Because it gets loose, you'll see that my wheel is actually unloading a bit off of this full throttle. So full throttle, and then my wheel is turning a bit back to center to kind of even out the rotation, and then I let the car naturally start turning back towards the bottom. You don't want this to be too early, or else you are going to miss the late apex. So you need to control it a little bit, but if you let the car rotate as much as it wants to the whole way, you're going to get to the bottom like too early and hit the apron and hit the wall and be sad. So what you want to do instead is delay that rotation just the tiniest bit. And then when you are ready to rotate down, you force that rotation by getting out of the gas about 10%. And that forces the car to go down, and then you just pick up the throttle when you are about to hit that late apex. If you hit that throttle full a little too early, that'll straighten your car out just a little too much, and you'll be straight towards the wall. So you want to hold that 90% until right about when you you late apex, sorry. Okay, so that's good. And second, turn 3 and 4. This is a little bit more of a straightforward corner. I like dive bombing the bottom as the best for lap time. I think that you could probably do something decent with pretty much any choice of lane here, but what I'm going to show you right here is dive bombing the bottom. In fact, I think I could have pushed this a little harder for a little more lap time, but I still think this was a good example. So I turn in while I'm still on the straight. We see same idea, kind of right before the turn happens. I turn my car down to the white line, and then I get on the brake. So just drag that brake, wrap it around the bottom, and then back to partial throttle once your car is not wanting to slide up to the wall. So if you are turning your wheel and you're kind of holding your wheel in position and noticing that, so you see how I'm turning the wheel more and more and more and more and more to keep the car on the line. But then the moment my wheel kind of stops turning that much, I go back to partial throttle because that means the weight shifted. So I go back to partial throttle, and then because this is hot lap, I try to force full throttle early and get off the corner. In fact, it would have been bad for tires, but I could have forced the throttle even earlier for even a bit more time. So that's just kind of an idea of what you do in hot lap different from what you do in qualifying. We'll take a look at that one more time without pausing. So turn down to the white line, drag the brake all the way down, turn the wheel, turn the wheel, turn the wheel. Okay, the wheel stopped turning that much, so I pick up the partial throttle, push the issue a little bit because it's hot lap, not race lap, and then push the issue a bit on throttle as well. All right, so that's a decent run off the corner. We gained a lot of time, and we got a pretty decent time. I think this will be good for pretty much all of you guys. So now let's get to the long run. All right, let's take a look at long run. So I'm going to be staying on 14-1 here, mainly because I find it a little too hard to keep the car under control in 1 and 2 on 16-1. But I definitely can see people using 6-1, so just do whatever is most comfortable for you. I think previously I was doing 16-1 at this track, but I'm starting to think that 14-1 is better for me, but it could be different for you. So the main thing about saving tires is you just want to, one, follow the line in 1 and 2 and really arc as much as possible. So we'll see here. I want to get all the way to the bottom and then slide all the way up to the top. So you see how I only got like a lane from the wall? That makes it my exit really hard. You see how my exit was like really challenging because I had a shallower angle. And then 3 and 4, you can take one of two ways. You can do the bottom, sorry, messed up a little bit. You can do the bottom, quote unquote, or you can rip the wall more or less. But the thing about ripping the wall is a lot of people run the top wrong, and it causes them to wear tires. So you see how I bring up the partial throttle as close to the wall as possible, then you just kind of ease it off the corner. Try to be as aggressive as possible, but if your angle isn't right, you gotta back off. So at the top, you really gotta make sure not to diamond the corner at all. You just gotta keep your lane and keep steady. And that's a good corner for saving tires, even if it doesn't particularly look much different. I'll contrast that with the next one. So here, get full throttle before the wall, get as close as possible, then turn the car down and make as wide of an angle as possible so that you can use very little steering wheel. So using little possible steering wheel is the key. So what's really bad is if you kind of dive bomb the corner and slide up towards the wall, that's what gets tire wear. And it might be faster on the short run, but you're using a lot of right front tire and leaning on it in order to achieve that pace. After your tires warm up, after being cold, 1 and 2 isn't that bad. But once again, you really want to exaggerate that arc in 1 and 2 as much as possible, as comfortable as possible. I really just like the bottom of the top, and 3 and 4, I just kind of wrap it, just be patient on the bottom. I lose a little bit of time to the top, but it's really not that bad.
29.784.
Especially when it's hard to pass as it is, and tires wear off as fast as they do. So you see how I try to commit to full throttle, but if my car angle isn't right, I gotta back off a bit. Let's try the top line again up here. No diamond, no diamond. Get back to throttle, and just hold that partial until the car is ready to unload the wheel, and then you go full throttle as you're unloading the wheel. So see, actually the bottom is a little faster there. Wide setup. Drive up to the wall. Let go of the throttle a little bit, turn it back down. Same idea as qualifying, just with a little more ease on your inputs. See, any lane in 3 and 4 I believe is good, as long as you are not sliding up in the middle of the corner. That's my #1 tip to saving tires at Darlington, is you do not want your car to be sliding up in the middle of the corner. Whatever lane you are on, stick to it, because that's how you'll balance out your tire wear. Alright, we'll do one more corner here, and then we'll take a look at our tires. I like the bottom. You kind of make up a lot of time on the bottom, and the way that these cars work, it's not that slow. You see how little time we're losing on the straightaway?
29.89.
Those are pretty consistent laps, and those lines will kind of be good in perpetuity. That's really the only good lines. And 3 and 4 will continue. I think the top might get better as the run goes on, but it's still the exact same idea as not changing your lane after you enter the corner. Okay, and you see that 98, 97. So we're trying to avoid right front tire wear, and in that tiny run there, we see how that uses even tire wear, if not a little bit more right rear. So that's exactly what we're looking for, and we just want to be able to extend that throughout the entire run. And those lines will work for the entire run. You might just have to back up your entry into 3 a little bit, be a little more patient on your partial throttle, but the fundamentals are the same. Get to a lane in 3 and 4, stick to it, don't push the issue, don't slide up in the middle of the corner. 1 and 2, get as close to the wall as you're comfortable with, get that big arc off so that you can have as straight of an exit as possible. If you get a little timid and you narrow up your exit, you're going to have to use a lot of steering wheel in order to not hit the wall, so keep that in mind. Alright, thank you all for watching. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you all on the track.